Today I'm going to show you how to do a backward loop cast on. This cast on is not very stable and it stretches rather easily, but it's often used for casting on underarm stitches or neck stitches. It's great for casting on a small number of stitches and it doesn't create a lot of bulk. So that's another reason why it's good for underarm stitches. So I'm going to show you how to do this using the thumb method, which is where you take your thumb over top of your yarn and you just wrap it around and you come up underneath and grab that loop. That's it. That's your backward loop cast on. So if I continue to show you how to do this here, I'm going to pretend like I'm using this for underarm stitches in a sweater. So if this is one side of my sweater and I've just put my sleeve stitches on hold and I'm now casting on, let's say 10 stitches for my underarm, and then I'm going to join it to the other side of my work, I'm going to show you what I do. So that was 3 stitches. I'm going to do 10, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why did I stop at 8? Well, I find that when you use this cast on, because it is so stretchy and loose, sometimes you get big gaps or slack at either side of where I join on to my 2 sides. So I cast on 2 less so that I can add an additional stitch at either side. And I'll show you how I add that additional stitch. So what I did was I've created another little swatch here, another little piece, pretending that this is the other side of my sweater I'm working. So after I've cast on 2 less stitches than my underarm stitches, I join it to the other side of my work. Continue on. Now I would have been knitting this sweater in the round. So instead of having a full sweater going around and around and around here, I'm just going to pretend like I'm getting all the way around to the other side. And I'll start off with a new piece of yarn here just to pretend like I went all the way around and now I'm getting close to those underarm cast on stitches. So I'm going to join a new piece of yarn here just so I can show you how to do this. Okay, here we go. And I'm coming up to the part where I've done my backward loop cast ons. Get up to that point. Here we go. Now this is where I cast on with the backward loop cast on. You can see that it creates that there's this long strand here. Now one thing you can do is you could twist it. So you could just take this and kind of twist the yarn and place that and make your own little extra stitch there, which I just did. But an easier way I found is by doing a make one, like a make one left. So you go under the yarn like that and then knit through the back loop. And that creates an extra stitch right there so that you don't have that piece of slack. And then if I continue on, these stitches you'll find with a backward loop cast on are pretty tight and they can come off very easily. So it's helpful to knit at the tips here and not to stretch the yarn out too much, because if I do pull on these, you can get a lot of slack and a lot of gapping in between. So I find that knitting very close to the tips is helpful when I'm knitting the backward loop cast on. And then as I'm coming up on the other end here, I'm going to make another stitch to kind of help close in the gap on the other side. Here we are. See that again, I have this gap. So I'm going to go under that stitch and knit through the back or underneath that piece of yarn and create a stitch. And now I have my 10 stitches instead of the 8, but the 10 stitches that the pattern called for my underarm cast on using the backward loop method. And that's it.